Grasshopper here. Welcome to the Cliffside Bunker in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And this is a grand strategy video for this game in front of me. It's called Axis and Allies 1940 Global 2nd Edition. And this is Operation Sealion. We're going to be talking about the German invasion of London. It's important to learn how to do this. I'm going to be shooting this video with new players in mind. I believe that everybody playing this game needs to understand how to do this strategy, needs to understand how to pull it off, needs to practice pulling it off, needs to understand why we need to fake or feign this strategy and maybe go off and do other things. We got to learn how to defend against it as well, but we're going to be talking mostly about German player and pulling this off. You need to have this particular strategy in your repertoire to be able to be taken seriously by your opponent. Let me go through the motions. There's going to be all kinds of clips involved in this video. I'm going to go over many details and help you through it. And remember, if you're a new player that has not tried this before, I highly suggest practicing. And again, if you've never tried Operation Sealion before, you need to get at least one attempt under your belt, okay, and understand how these things work and why they're important to your overall war effort playing this game. All right, I'll be right back. So here we have the combat movement completed for Germany turn 1. And I'm going to go through with you guys the different details and observations we need to be aware of from game round to game round, okay? Now, we're going to show the progression of how we eventually get into a position where we actually land in London and take that capital, okay? Now, I'm showing you turn 1 because there's a lot going on here that we have to get information from and absorb. Now, we're going to go through this video on the assumption that we're cementing ourselves in and committing to Operation Sealion, and therefore we are purchasing an aircraft carrier and 2 transports. Now, even though that screams Sealion attempt, and that's fine, we don't care to show our cards in this regard. We can use these units successfully in other areas if we decide to back off. Why would we back off from Operation Sealion? Well, this is a very balanced aspect of this particular game. And the balancing is the attempt on Sealion, whether the British defend it or whether the Germans actually take that capital. It's one of the best balanced battles and mechanisms in this game. Therefore, we have to find out if the odds are going to swing our way as the German player. And by doing that, we're going to attack in a way to put ourselves in a position for Sealion. And we're going to draw the information that we need from these particular battles, okay, to tell us if we are primed for Sealion or if it's a strategy that we should back off from. Okay, so let me stop this clip and go right into some of the results that we might get or we might see from this turn 1. So guys, before we go into the results of this turn 1, I want to just touch a little bit more on this balance I just mentioned. This progression, this balanced progression between the UK and Germany. So let's take a look and zoom in a little bit here on the UK. And I want to show you what exactly is here, what's on here. What can we expect to stay on here when we attack London? And what can we expect to be added to this when we attack London? So we know what kind of forces that the Germans are going to have. Basically anything that can fit on their transports based on how many transports that they build. But the UK, their variable is a little bit different. So we are attacking this fleet over here in the hopes that we kill this transport. Okay, now that transport can bring over an infantry and a tank. This tank will defend at 3. This infantry will defend at 2. So if we don't take out this transport, then these 2 units on UK's turn 1, 1, 2, 3, will land and just add to what's already here. Now that is going to be a problem. So we take a look at our own German strength and we're building 2 transports. And we're going to have a transport already on board to add to those 2 transports. And if everything goes as it should, we will have lots of land units to fill those transports up. All right? But again, our attack is only limited to the amount of transports that we can fully load and the amount of transports that we purchase. That is our max ceiling. Now, the UK are going to have, again, units here, maybe this fighter here. Maybe these fighters will continue to stay here, maybe they won't. We're also looking at their purchases. So when we get to a point where we build up enough transports in order to land on the United Kingdom, then we have to be sure that our land troops and our aircraft are in a dominant position to be able to take the capital with at least 1 land unit left over. Okay, so that is what I meant by balancing. And again, there's lots of information that we're going to take from turn 1. There's more information we're going to take from turn 2. But as a German player, we want to make sure that we are keeping up, with our ability in this battle. Namely, transports loaded with aircraft. Okay? Be right back. So I have some results here from our Germany turn 1 resolve combat phase, and this is a dramatization, so there's some things that could be different. I want to teach that it's all about absorbing the information that the board is telling us. Reactionary play always, guys. So let's go over a few things, but when I go over things, I want to show you in order of the battles that I believe you should be rolling out first to last. Now, I might seem a little picky here. However, I think that there's some importance when it comes to the order of which battle should be done first. And in my opinion, this one should be done first, 106. In this situation, the submarine was successful at taking out the destroyer and transport. Next up is 91. I would roll that one next, and the submarine was unsuccessful in getting a surprise strike on that cruiser. The cruiser remains. Next, I would do 111, okay? So the fighter did scramble in 111, and I want to find out just how many planes I lose in 111 before I move on to 110. So in that situation, even with the scramble, Germany got some decent dice, lost 2 submarines and 1 fighter. And down here in 110, there was no scramble. Okay, so we lost 1 submarine and damaged the battleship, did not lose any planes there. Now, a lot of people might say, why aren't the Allies scrambling at this point? And, that's a viable argument. And I would say, even if they do scramble and get into a fight with German aircraft, depending on how it goes, obviously, but I would welcome the Allies scrambling. I would welcome the opportunity for my planes to take out the Allied planes. Now, obviously, we got to be careful what we wish for, because we may lose a lot of our German aircraft, which is not good. However, just the potential of taking out 3 fighters that defend at 4 in London is something that leaves Sealion on the table all day. So in this particular dramatization, we did not scramble the 3 planes. However, it's very possible that the Allies do scramble and there's a big fight to take out planes. And whether the Germans retreat or not, I don't see them losing a ton of planes. But the dice are going to do what the dice do. That is all about the information that we're going to take from the board, okay? That's all part of it, all right? Just like if we did not get these boats, but we got this boat, that would change how we look at the board, obviously. Now, we took this out. We only lost 2 infantry here. Now, we're sending down the 1 fighter to protect Tobruk and putting a tactical bomber in southern Italy to get that 3-plane scramble. Now, in past G1 Chronicle videos, I talked about 2 planes coming down here and not having a plane come in here on this fleet. However, remember, we're cementing ourselves in the Sealion agenda. So we wouldn't do the 2 planes to Tobruk, we'd just do 1. Okay. Now, we've got our tanks in a position to get back. We only sent in 1 infantry here to take Bulgaria. We need the money. Okay, so the other one came up here to Slovakia. We only sent in the tank from Romania. All right. Now, we did some creative moving around. Now, in Paris, the battle for Paris, what we did was, normally we would keep some fast-moving mechanized infantry, but in this case, we wanted to lose the mechanized infantry and favor the artillery in this situation. Here we only lost 1 infantry and we took a valuable 2 IPCs there in Normandy. And we only moved 1 infantry from Norway into Finland to claim this standing army and gain that money. So again, different from, say, a couple of G1 Chronicle videos that I've done in the past here. So I'm leaving 2 infantry in Norway, and of course I've got my infantry in Denmark there. I'm not pushing a lot of infantry to the front, although I did push 5 infantry there and move some around. These can get back in time, but we're focused on the 3 transports that we have. The 3 transports that we have is what we have right now. This is what we have to work with. We got to make sure that we can load these right now if we wanted to. And we can. So you take a look here. This border of Germany is bordering 113. Even though there's no naval base there, there is one here in Western Germany. So the ships from 112 here can jump into 113 backwards, pick up, and then go 2-3 or 2-3. Okay, so we have in range the ability to load these transports. Now we have to keep in mind that when it comes to transports, it's all Germany has in their arsenal to attack London. Therefore, the transports need to be used at their maximum capability. Okay, always make sure that you can fill boats. All right, but also remember not to pick up an artillery with an infantry if you've got an available tank. Okay, so we have a tank there that can be picked up as well. And again, we're only looking at turn 1, but we always got to keep Sealion in mind. You know, they may not purchase what they need to defend. They may strip it. They may be oblivious as to your 3 transports, or maybe coax you, bait you into doing it. And if you want to do it, then you should have your loaded transports in mind. Okay, now up here in 111, we stripped away a fighter. So we lost an aircraft in the Battle of 111, and we chose to strip a fighter. In these battles here, 111, no matter how bad they get, try your best not to strip your tactical bombers. Your tactical bombers are huge element in the push to get through those final combat rounds to actually take London. Simply because, sure, the tactical bombers are paired, combined arms with the fighter in battles like 111 and 110, which allow them to be boosted and attack at 4. However, with the tactical bombers in a potential land battle, we've got tanks here that also boost the tactical bombers. Now, I've attempted Sealion many times. I've seen Sealion attempted many times. Whenever I see the final battles going down to the wire, and we're talking about the 3rd, 4th, and 5th combat rounds, it's always the tactical bombers at 4 that push the Germans across the finish line. Remember that, okay? So always save your tactical bombers in a potential Sealion attempt, all right? All right, so I'm going to leave the money up here that was collected during Germany's turn 1 collect income phase. We're going to use that and spend it here soon when their turn 2 comes around. However, I want to go over some things that Britain might do on their turn one. It's important to sort of calculate what they can do, what they will do, and then sort of absorb what it means to you pertaining to your Sealion attempt. Okay, so I mean, a responsible United Kingdom player, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a fighter. So responsible purchases for the UK would be 6 infantry and a fighter. And I don't want to go through all the different things that could be done, purchased, and all kinds of gamey things that might happen for UK Europe. I'm just going to go with the responsible 6 men and a fighter purchase. Okay. Now remember, Britain is trying now to contemplate the potential of Sealion. And it's a seesaw battle. So Germany on one seat and UK on the other seat, depending on who's higher and who's lower. There has to be a balance there. And right now, Britain is thinking that they're underachieving now in the whole attrition war if there were to be a Sealion attempt. So therefore, they have to bring themselves to level to compete for their capital. All right. Now, there's a few things that UK can do on turn one, namely the Taranto raid or amphibious assault on Tobruk. These types of things in the Mediterranean, as far as what the UK are going to do, don't much matter to Germany. What matters is what is being taken off London, what is being added to London. Now, we have a submarine in this situation and a damaged battleship in this situation, and it's going to take different situations and absorbing the information on the board to get into the knack of how exactly does any of this affect my chances at taking London as the German player. Now, we left in 109 a destroyer for the British. Best thing for the destroyer is to come in on this sub. A destroyer is needed against a submarine to potentially kill it. So I can see right away that the best use for that destroyer is here on this submarine. Now, let's look at some other things that are needed. Obviously, they want to get rid of this battleship. So then they start to assess what they have in aircraft. Remember, there's a cruiser down here and a fighter in Gibraltar. However, they do want to do some things in the Mediterranean. Now, I've got a friend here at my group that says if planes leave London to go do Taranto, then Sealion is 100% guaranteed. I mean, obviously, that's his philosophy, and there's some validity to that. I don't like saying 100%, but if you strip planes here to go do something in the Mediterranean, chances are 90% those planes can't get back to London to defend during Sealion, right? Maybe that's 99% that those planes can't get back. I mean, doing Taranto, the bomber has to land in Malta. The fighter has to land on the carrier if it survives. This tactical bomber has to land in Malta. So if I were the British trying to be cautious against a possible Sealion, what I would do is I would take this out and I would take this out. Reason being why this is so important is because this is our lone transport needed. What we really need for this transport to do is go back to 106 and do the pickup of the Canadian forces here and bring them back to London. The transport that was in 106 got killed. This one has to do its job. Go over here, pick this up, and get them back for the defense of London. Now, that in mind, this transport doing the exact same thing the other could if it weren't for this sub, you start to get the idea of the importance of taking out the one transport, because if two transports come here, right, and take these units and get them successfully back to London at the expense or expendability of these transports, it doesn't matter, but those 4 units here on London, those are the kinds of things that happen that make you back off from Sealion as Germany. So very important to take this out. If it doesn't happen, then you could very well be faced with 4 Canadian troops coming over. But in this situation, the British at least want that one transport to go over. That's why it's important to take this.
Therefore, one destroyer, even though it's at 2 against a defending sub at 1, isn't going to be healthy enough for the British, considering the importance of that mission. So we're going to either take a bomber or a fighter, okay? Now, the thing with the fighter is you come here with the fighter, it has to land in Nova Scotia. Then the problem with that is it can't reach back to London. It has to come up to Iceland and then back to London. At that time, it might be too late and Sealion's already happening before this fighter can get back. That's why I opt for a bomber to get there. So the bomber gets there, can land in New Brunswick, and can easily get back by turn 2. Therefore, you're getting the odds you need to make sure that you kill that successfully. The destroyer's there to make sure that the submarine doesn't submerge and avoid the battle. So that's what I would do as Britain. Now, we also have to deal with this, okay? Now, we have a couple of options. We have aircraft, but we also have this cruiser that stayed. So the cruiser comes in because we don't want to lose planes, okay? So the cruiser comes in, let's say, with a fighter, okay? That leaves us one fighter down here and one fighter down here. So we can get rid of this successfully. We can get rid of this successfully and still have some planes in order to do some things in the Mediterranean. But because the bomber is being used off the coast of Canada, and it's very important that the bomber gets in here to up the odds, right? Even if the third plane scramble is weaker, I wouldn't gamble on Taranto without having the bomber. Therefore, we can still take out 96 and do an amphibious landing, because I'm always a proponent of doing either one or the other, Taranto or Tobruk. I don't suggest leaving both of them for the Italians, right? So I would opt for the amphibious assault in Tobruk in this case. We have a plane here to help, and we have a plane here to help in on this, plus these boats can help take out this, and then the landing, and then the help, and you take out a German plane in the process. And then that way, you can use this fighter in on this, and you can have 2 to land, and then you're buying 1, so the defense of your Sealion is good, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses here as far as balance. You want to maintain that attrition that you know is coming, okay? So those are some options for the British, okay? And those are some things that you can kind of expect from as the German player, okay? So let's say the battleship hit and took out the cruiser. The cruiser's not the most important thing here for this. Let's just say there was no hit there, and that's there. And they're going to non-combat, of course, the transport there. Now, we're also going to see the British probably take down some more units. So it's all hands on deck now. They'll fight on the seas, they'll fight on the shores, they'll fight on the landing grounds, they'll fight in the hills. And we're going to put this AA gun here. So that gives them a total of 5 AA guns. That is problematic in the defense of, the taking of London. It's great for the defense of London. So 5 AA guns, and this is what can all come in here. Okay. Now I'm going to stop this clip and I'm going to move on. Okay. This is after Britain's turn 1. Let's get these new units on here. So another stack of infantry with another fighter. Now it's looking pretty formidable there now. Okay. All right. Now we won't worry about moving the stuff down in the Mediterranean. Okay. Basically, we're concerned with what stays in London and maybe what comes from the Mediterranean later, but very difficult. Now, I would suggest that this fighter was used in the Mediterranean to help. Okay. So, the British are not going to strip themselves completely out of the Mediterranean war, because what happens is they overcompensate here and all of a sudden it's a Sealion fake, and they didn't do successful in the Mediterranean, and now the Italians are running wild, and these are being used in Russia, and a lot of stuff is stuck here. They have to take their aggressive opportunity to take out some Italian units while they can. They got to make sure that they do that successfully, and it will cost them the Gibraltar plain instead of getting it back. All right, so I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to get into Germany turn 2.
So we've jumped to Germany turn 2, guys, and before I get into the combat movements here, I want to go over a bunch of stuff. Right now we're looking at the elephant on the table. In my mind, the money for Germany turn 2 buys me 7 German transports, a tactical bomber, and a fighter. Okay, now I am a big believer, and I've said this many times, that I believe that at this point in the game, Germany's turn to purchase new units phase is the moment in which Germany has to make their mind up what they're going to do. This is my opinion. I believe that by having a philosophy where Germans decide where they go, what direction they go, they've got the information from the first round. Now it's the new game round number 2. Now we should have in our minds 90% if we're going to do Sealion or Barbarossa, if we're going to attack the British in London, or if we're going to attack the Russians in Moscow. A lot of people might say, well, that's not the reactionary play you're looking for, but I've seen so many times German players just be indecisive and turn their head left, turn their head right, and before you know it, it's turn 3, turn 4, and they don't have a plan, and they're getting squeezed from both sides. So in my mind, it's safe to have a good idea, a great idea of the direction that you want to go. Now this is going to show our hand, and this is another reason why turn 2 you want to have your mind made up, because your enemies are looking. They're looking for the information as well. You're also getting information from the table, so is your enemies. And they're going to know which direction you go in based on your turn 2 purchases, and I don't recommend saving all your money at that point, guys. So this is what I'm purchasing, and this is telling the British player, okay, it's me, and it's telling the Russian player, okay, it's you, right? And again, we're not going to get into Russia's purchases and turns. We're not going to get into Italy's purchases and turns, okay? It's all about this island right here. It's all about this island, okay? Now, reactionary play after you take the island, okay, and dealing with the Russian bear is a totally different scenario, okay? So we have more than enough land units on mainland Germany and France to fill these boats, okay? Now remember, our power, our strength is dependent on the number of boats and if we're going to fill them and how we're going to fill them. And we are looking good. We've got the 3 on the board already, and we got the 7. That's 10. That's 10 transports coming. We're buying extra planes. Remember what I said about tactical bombers being so important in Sea Line? We've got a fighter here because when we come in with all of our aircraft and we face these AA guns, okay, I know that we're giving the AA gun an extra shot, but we want some fodder for those hits, okay? And remember, we don't want to remove our tactical bombers in the fodder for that. Also, too, I mean, there's some situations we could do. I mean, we could take away the fighter. We could add $1 here and get a second tactical bomber. We could remove one of these, and with the $6, we could get a submarine if it's needed. Again, we don't know how the board's going to look. Maybe there's a boat already here. Maybe they bought a boat, and maybe that cruiser is still here. I would suggest maybe going after one submarine to do some sort of secondary action leading up to Sealion. Maybe that submarine needs a surprise strike, something. Okay, so there's $6 here. You could get a submarine, or maybe you lost tanks in France and now you don't have enough to fill up your boat, so you use the $6 to fill up your boat with another tank, right? Of course, we got artillery, but we want the most punch. We don't want all of our infantry firing at 1, but if we can get 10 tanks into the battle and we got 10 at 3, then that's what's going to help us in the long run as well. So let's just go back to our original purchase, okay? And we want our transport power, because I'll tell you, this is probably the last time we're going to buy transport. So whatever we buy here, and we've made our mind up for Sea Lion, is what we're going to fill and have to take in, all right? And depending on things like this, if they get those units there, if they keep all their planes, if they purchase other things, if they don't do anything in the Med, and maybe the Gibraltar plane comes up, all this stuff is information that needs to be absorbed from the table, okay? And we gotta at this point ask ourselves,
Are we going to do Sealion? Because there's really no turning back after this. A lot of people might say, oh, you can use 10 transports against Russia. Okay, it's too much money. It's too much money to just fake Sealion. You know, this is not a fake. This is I'm all in. This is saying I'm all in. And it should say I'm all in. And British should now clench their cheeks and get ready for whatever's coming. Okay? And Russia will probably now start purchasing accordingly as well. All right. So we're going to get into combat movement and non-combat movement for the Germans at this particular scenario and setup. And again, we are learning how to land in London using Operation Sealion. And I'll be right back. Okay guys, so before we get ahead of ourselves, we're going to talk about a few variables. And remember, we talked about the progression of getting to a position where we can land in London. And the progression is things like this battle. The progression is things like how many planes, what are the purchases, you know, what happened down here as far as stripping British units away and adding British units. But there's another big variable factor, and we're talking about the United States, okay? So as a German player who is cemented in the plan of doing Sealion, there's more than just buying transports when planning this and making it plausible. So over here in the Pacific, you have to discuss with your Japan teammate, or maybe you're playing both sides and you can dictate what it is you want to do. But as far as the Japan and Pacific war, it may not be a great idea to bring United States into the war turn 1, or even turn 2 for that matter. I'm going to leave it up to the experts to write in the comment boards as to what exactly can we expect from the United States in the way of preventing a Sealion by being in the war. Remember that the Americans are restricted in movement when neutral. So they cannot move up here. They cannot move here. Well, they can move here, but without transports. You get the idea. The restrictions are there to keep them hemmed in against their own territories. Now they can build up. They can have some transports ready, right? And by the time that Germany lands in London, that will trigger the Americans into the war, but the Americans might be poised with a good fleet to liberate. Now, we could talk about Sea Zone 106 for possible liberation of London and 91 for possible liberation of London, or just stacks and stacks of bombers to just get rid of these boats in general and all the transports, so that after the landing, those boats cannot be used to hurt Russia. So that would be the advice that I would give Americans, is to do something about these boats. And of course, if all of them plus the 10 transports squeeze in the Baltic, then the only thing that's going to reach them or possible reach them is stacks of bombers. But we're not talking about America and their reaction to Sealion. We're talking about Germany's ability to purchase and fill boats and come in and attack. We're not talking about after the fact, okay? We're just looking at the attempt, and we're trying to have a successful landing and conquering of the capital, where we would get all their money, get all of British money, okay? So one thing that I want to go into now, all right, and it should not be overlooked, is something called a double scotch. So it's a move that experienced players will do to better their chances of actually taking the capital. However, in order to better their chances of taking the capital, there's some craftiness that needs to be deployed. So what happens is the Germans will take these 3 transports, they will fill them and move to 111 right now in turn 2. And they would land in Scotland, which is bare. At least it should be bare. I mean, at this point, all the British can really do is fill up the United Kingdom for the defense of London. So this should be bare, okay? And all these here would come to 111 and land 6 units in Scotland, taking the 2 IPCs. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, the 6 in London are on the ground. They're boots on the ground, and they're ready to go in next turn. Okay? But the 6 don't really stand a chance to anything here, but it's a bait. They get drawn into Scotland to take out those 6. You need infantry, you need some aircraft. They probably don't have a lot of offensive units like artillery or tanks because they're really focused on defense right now. So it would only be the planes and the infantry, perhaps a tank from Canada, 1, 2, 3, and land in Scotland could help out there. The bomber could help out there. So taking out the 6 units in Scotland is not really the issue for Britain. It's being drawn away from London to go into Scotland and to diminish your defensive forces. These defend at 2, but if they attack at 1. So depending on the type of defense that Germans put up in Scotland, and it is a risk because you could come here, you could land your units in Scotland and they could come in and demolish them. But the whole point is once infantry has been drawn away from London into Scotland, the boats here, plus whatever else was purchased, would on their 3rd turn come in, pick up, go here, and drop. Okay? So we call that a double Scotch. So it's a double landing and first be in Scotland. Double Scotch. So this is something that I suggest new players don't attempt yet until they get the idea of doing an all-out sea line. But it's something to keep in mind if you're creative as a new player and you want to try that and it fails epically. I don't want you to just stop going for sea line. You know, I have failed at sea line a bunch of times. I still go to it if I think that I can get it because I've also been successful at sea lion a few times. So we don't want a disaster on your first try to just make you feel like you're not going to do it again. You got to keep trying it and doing it because it is possible. And once you take sea lion, you get all that money and your enemy does not collect any money. They have no capital and you're in control with boats and everything else and you can start going towards Russia. It's a great feeling. Okay. So double Scotch is a viable thing to talk about here in the Sea Lion Grand Strategy video because it actually is, if you understand how to do it properly, it actually is more of a guarantee of taking the capital because even if they don't come in to take these units, you're going to have these units available to come in when your transports come in and pick up more. So not only all your transports loaded again for the second landing, but the 6 here can go in, right? And that's the dilemma that you're going to give Britain. The only problem is Britain could come in and roll amazing and you could lose everything and you've lost 6 units. But again, it might be the fact that they're drawing away from London, which is the prize there, right? Now, why shouldn't new people try this? Well, there are a few things that Britain can do to really screw with you, especially if they have a boat left over. They could get into blocking. Okay, so you remember you cannot attack if you're blocked. I mean, you would have to come here, go here, or go here. There's no naval base here, so you're not going to have the 3. So it's 1, 2, right? So you can't come in here and pick up in a territory that is hostile, right? So that could block you from picking up and landing twice. And, you know, you get yourself in that situation where it happens and it's not a good feeling because it really, really screws with your entire plan. And now your landing is looking more and more riskier all the time. Okay, so there are some gamey things the British can do to really screw with a double Scotch, right? If you're experienced and you know how to do it and avoid it and know what to look for, then I suggest doing a double Scotch. But right now, we're going to focus on the all-out turn 3 landing. The all-out turn 3 landing. So here's an idea, a dramatization, guys, of how the board might look after Germany's turn 2. So we did our combat and we did our non-combat, and we placed our new units. So there's not a whole lot involved in combat. I will point out that we used our 2 strategic bombers with some fighter planes to escort and come in and do a strategic bombing raid on the factory. So they did not intercept, because you need to bring in enough so that they don't intercept. They don't want to lose their planes in that manner. They would rather defend at 4. So the 2 bombers passed the AA guns and bombed for 7 IPCs total. 7, which isn't a whole lot considering that 4 of those was free for each bomber, 2 each. So 7 IPCs. So not a great strategic bombing role, but we did get back with both bombers, which is also important, okay? So we have done our non-combat movements and pushed our units and positioned them in a way where we can do our landing next turn, round 3. So we have 10 transports here with a defending fleet, with also some fighters that can scramble, some tacticals that can scramble to protect that fleet. Here we did some movements to show our hand. Obviously, it's no secret what the Germans want to do at this point. We moved these back. We moved these 6 into here. Now, a lot of people might say, well, you could leave them back. The problem with that is if you're not in a position to pick up where your fleet is, then you're going to be forced to come back and pick up from 113 and then go back out. But from 112, if you can pick up all the infantry you need, and again, we brought 2 from Finland back to Norway, so there's a possible 6 here that can be picked up and 6 infantry here. Remember, we need at least 1 infantry on each transport before we can fill it. And we have here in tanks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 tanks total to fill 9 transports, and we're going to take 1 artillery along with the ride. And we're going to, in the next turn, plan is to come into 110. You want to push these infantry up into Western, because if you need to go around and land in 109, then you need to pick up everything from 112, not go back into 113 and come back out. All right. Now, why would you want to come to 109 to land? Well, it depends the positioning of the Americans if they're in the war and they've positioned here off Nova Scotia. Coming here is a great block, okay? Now, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier for the British is it might be valuable to take Erie, okay, with 1 infantry from Scotland early on. Now, the reason why we want to do that, take Erie, is because we want to make sure that the Americans have a chance to land if they're going to go after the fleet with bombers. Now, this works best if there's after turn 1. Turn 1, you want to go in there as the British, because you don't know if there's going to be a double Scotch landing. If there is a double Scotch landing and the Germans take Scotland on their way to take London, therefore there's no possible landing area for American bombers. By doing this, you give yourself the ability to land bombers in Erie. If you're going to choose and go after that fleet, you need a legal landing spot. However, the Germans will probably come in and deal with that if the plans go that way. So there's that equilibrium of balance, okay? So remember that as the British when defending London. So if the Germans are here off New Brunswick with a landing force, because maybe the Japanese brought the Americans into the war too early, it might be best to take your fleet and come in and around to 109 and land from there to prevent the Americans from landing here. If the fleet is still intact, they would have to deal with it, okay? So that's something to think about as well. All right. So not much in the way of combat. And again, it's all about making sure you're in the right position. That's the problem with 111 and doing a double scotch, is that your positioning is a little bit off. And it can be a little confusing. And all it takes is one little move by Britain to screw up your whole plan. Okay, so be aware, be experienced if you do the double scotch. Here we have a very simple, massive landing. We're going to come into 110 or 109. We're going to bring in 10 infantry. We're going to bring in 9 tanks and 1 artillery. Okay. Now, before that happens, the British are going to get a move. They're going to take off this damage, and again, we wanted that to be more damage, but the point is they'll take off that damage and they'll build more units. So let's say they got 35 IPCs last turn. They got to take off 7 IPCs. That's going to mean that they get their 6 men in a plane. However, they might not take all the damage off if they can't reach the maximum 10 units, right? So to give themselves more money. The point is, whatever they put on here is their last line of defense. Okay, so let's say it's gonna be 7 infantry and a plane, which is pretty good considering. All right, so that's the last defense for London. All right, and this is what the board should look like going into round 3 for the Germans. They're poised and they're ready to take London. They're going to land there and they're going to try and take the capital with their land units and all their planes. The British are going to put up best defense that they can with their aircraft and hope that they shoot down some planes with their AA guns. All right, be right back. All right, guys, so this is what it's all about. This is what it's come down to. It's the German invasion of London. They've gone all out with 10 transports loaded with aircraft coming in to wipe out the defenses of Britain in order to take the capital and the cash on hand that they've collected. So let's take a look and see what we have to do as Germany. Well, we have an aircraft carrier and a cruiser with all these transports coming in to 110 or 109. Let's just say it's 110. Now, before the battle happens, after the non-combat movement, United Kingdom is going to have the opportunity and decide if they're going to scramble any fighters or tactical bombers into the sea zone to protect the shores from the landing. Now, the British don't have to have a ship in the sea zone to prevent this, okay? But, however, they may scramble into the sea zone where the attack is coming from. That's legal. So we want to make sure as Germany that we compensate for if that's going to happen. And how do we do this? Well, if they do scramble 3 aircraft, the maximum amount that they can scramble into the sea zone, they're going to get 3 dice at 4 to sink not only our fleet, but these transports loaded with all the weapons needed to take out the capital. Therefore, they have to seriously think about this. With the luck of 3 planes, the entire situation could be absolutely negated. And Germany would lose all that money into the channel and probably give up the game at that point. So as Germany, we want to make sure that catalyst doesn't happen. We've got an aircraft carrier, a cruiser, and 2 fighters. Now we have to designate before we finish our combat movements if what is fighting in the sea and what is fighting on the land as far as our air force. Now we've designated 2 fighters to be with the boats, and this is a major mistake a lot of German players make. Okay, they don't compensate for the scramble. So by putting 2 fighters in with the cruiser, we are giving ourselves the odds to fend off some fighters. Now, we're baiting them. We're definitely baiting them
because what we've got is 3 at 4 against 3 at 3. So 3 at 4 against 3 at 3. We've got the 2 soaks though, however, with the aircraft carrier. And again, we don't care about the aircraft carrier staying alive. We don't care about the cruiser staying alive. We care about these transports staying alive. Now, if this is too nervous for you, you can add another fighter, and then you'll probably not get the scramble. Okay? Now here, if they hit twice, you lose this, and then you're going to get your shots. Okay? You should hit at least once. Okay? And if they hit, let's say once, it's risky, but this carrier giving you the 2 hits to absorb hits is the ace in the sleeve. Well, we want to make sure that we win the battle. If there's no scramble, then we want to make sure that we have the planes available, because now we have to face the AA guns. So the AA guns are going to take their shot on all these planes that are coming in, participating in the land battle. So this is how many the AA guns are going to get. I'm going to say they hit at least twice. Now we have all of our tacticals and our 2 bombers, and they all attack at 4, which is exactly what we want as long as these tanks stay in the battle, because there's no planes anymore. Now, if we put one of these with this and one of these with this, it's kind of like, well, pick your poison. Do you want to protect yourself from the scramble? Do you want to protect yourself from the AA guns? Because at this point, this battle is looking pretty close. Okay? If we lose planes here that are, remember, the units that get us over the finish line in round 4, 5, and 6 combat rounds of this battle, then the fact that we stripped 1 plane away from the actual land, okay, but if they scramble and you win, then it's a no-brainer. Germany's going to take the island, no problem. If they scramble and things get dicey and you don't roll well in your defenses and you lose everything, then what's the point of what happens up here as far as AA guns, right? So these are the types of things that you have to make sure that you think about when you go into battle. Remember, designate your planes in here versus out there. A submarine is not going to help you. So if you purchased a submarine in round 2, it's not going to help you in this case, simply because aircraft and subs don't attack at each other. There's no destroyers here. All right? So I will be right back, guys. We're going to sum this video up. So there we have it, guys. Operation Sealion. The Germans control London with 1 tank remaining. We have all of our transports. However, we lost quite a few planes. We only have 3 aircraft plus the 2 bombers left. We had to strip away planes to make sure that we had a tank left over to claim the land. So now we collect all of the cash on hand from Britain. We go up and collect the extra 6 IPCs on the income tracker. $2 more if we did a double Scotch landing. Okay. Now, I hope that I showed you some easy basic fundamentals when it comes to buying your transports, to positioning your land units to fill those transports, and how to go about actually landing and what to watch out for, what improves your odds, what tells you to maybe back off from this strategy, hopefully before you buy the extra transports, because once you buy the extra transports, I would say you're all in. And who knows what's going on down here in the Mediterranean, or how close the Russians are from knocking on Germany with their tanks because they saw what was happening over here. And maybe America is built up and now in the war and poised to maybe attempt a liberation. Okay? And remember, this turns to a minor factory now, so you can only purchase 3. But there's excitement in this game, and there's great pride for the German player that it was pulled off. You pulled it off. Congratulations. You were successful. And you look across the table at your British player's opponent and their face, and you see the stress and you see the shame on their face for losing their capital, whether it was their fault or not. And now it's all up to Russia to save the day. And now it's a one-front war instead of a two-front war. But what are the Americans doing? And what do you do now? Do you protect London, or do you give it up? Maybe possibly land on it again. Now it comes all about protecting these transports for Germany. That's what it all comes down to now. Protect these transports for Germany. It was the money that went in here with the tanks and the aircraft that got lost to take the capital, not just for the cash on hand, but to make sure that Britain doesn't collect an income that can be used against you. But it was the money spent in these transports, that's the investment. And if you lose that, then the whole point of Sealion could have been all for nothing. Get them in here, get them protected, get them to work against the Russians, keep them away from the Americans. All right. Thanks, guys. I really loved shooting this. It was a lot of fun. Seems like whenever I shoot a video, though, there's an experienced player that shows me that I could have done something differently. And don't get me wrong, I am not the greatest player, and I really, really appreciate that advice. I'd love to correct my videos later on. Like, for example, the fact that the plane in Germany doesn't need the aircraft carrier. It can go 1-2 and fight in 110 and land in Holland. So thanks to Drew for pointing that out. I'm going to mention that again in my next G1 Chronicles video. But grand strategy, Sealion, I hope it was helpful. Again, I make these videos for new players. I make these videos for beginners in the hobby so that they take less of a learning curve to get to these points, to get to some of these strategies, okay? So I hope that that was helpful. Look in the future for another grand strategy video where I talk all about Barbarossa and the advance on Moscow. We're going to do that as well. Going to get back to my G1 Chronicles video talking about G1 attacks and G1 purchases in preparation for attacking Russia. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this. Comment and tell me if you did or if you didn't. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking my videos. Thanks to my patrons over on my Patreon page. Really, really appreciate my patrons. They're a small group and they help me financially. If you want to support me, guys, go to my Patreon page and pledge something, and I promise you some good extra content over there for you guys. All right, cheers, and hopefully I didn't mess anything up in this one. May all your rolls be ones, guys.